Warning, this video is kind of provocative. Coach Massi here from M2 Speed, Strength, and Performance with another episode of Move Your Feet. This episode is actually the basics of ground reaction forces for training, episode number 5. We're going to start by reflecting upon an episode, episode number 3, which had the original illustration that's behind me. Because today, we're going to actually segue at some point into sort of an interactive or living lab where we can start to examine the concept of force convergence or intersecting lines of force. And it'll be fun because you'll be able to stop, play, rewind. The videos will have Coach Matt participating in and demonstrating in, and really kind of get a flavor for what these concepts are all about. But we're going to kind of simplify it today because we really want you guys to be able to delve into this concept and put it to practical use in your businesses. So let's take a quick look. Last time we talked, or actually in episode number 3 when we talked, we tried to kind of get an idea of what ground reaction force looks like. So what we had done is we made the ground level, the horizontal line of the ground, and we showed you that there's a point of application whereby which somebody puts force into the ground, then you have your line of action coming back up at you, and then you also have the magnitude of that ground reaction force coming up. It's based on Newton's third law. For every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. And we would also like to think we can pound the ground a little bit more to elicit, create, borrow, and lend, maybe a little bit more than we gave. And we actually looked at the create, borrow, and lend concepts in episode 4, the last episode, so I would encourage you to go back and get a better understanding of creating, borrowing, and lending, which means by giving, you're going to create the ground reaction force. You're going to borrow the ground reaction force, and then you're going to lend it to the very next movement with efficacy, okay? Because we want precision and control. So that's the basics of what the ground reaction force looks like. So today we're going to start to look at intersecting lines, convergence of force. And in keeping it simple, like I had said, we're going to look at the vertical ground reaction force, some horizontal ground reactional force, and some rotational, how it's affected in the rotational. So if I can just draw over this real quick and take a quick look at this. If we're looking for vertical forces, I think that's really easy to understand because we examined last time also force dissipation, which directions the force can go into, how connective tissues affect the ground reaction forces. But today we're going to just look at the simple vertical as component or element number 1. So vertical's simple. Vertical means vertical. So vertical forces meaning right, up and down. When we look at the ground reaction forces for training, this is going to be your vertical line. And I hope you guys can see that. Then we want to look at the horizontal. Well, what do you mean, Coach Massi? You're telling me if I put force into the ground, I'm going to get force back in a line of action. But we talked about the nuances and the concepts of taking and reappropriating those forces in the direction that you want to go. So let's say you have your second movement, or when that ground reaction force comes back, you start to appropriate it in the direction you want to go. Let's say you want to start moving that way. Eventually, you're going to find that you have a horizontal line, and maybe that's where that horizontal force or horizontal ground reaction force starts to occur. So you got your vertical, you have your horizontal, and then lastly we're going to look at the rotational aspect. So we're going to just examine a simple rotational medicine ball slam to the wall today to illustrate this concept because we think it's probably one of the easiest ways to translate it to your clients and athletes and get it embedded in their brain. So the vertical, the horizontal, and if you have any sort of rotation, even if we're sprinting and we're getting a little inside that tunnel or that hallway, we're going to have a little bit of rotation. This is not time to talk about anti-rotation. Today we're going to talk about the rotational forces. So at some point if you start to move an object, especially, if you have some sort of projectile involved in this, you're going to take vertical, horizontal, and you'll have sort of a rotational force here, and that's when you'll see all these lines begin to intersect or converge at some points. And it's quite interesting to me to kind of play around with this and figure out things like ground contact time, how quickly somebody can get the ball out of their hand, and really how they can appropriate, reappropriate, create, borrow, and lend the ground reaction forces that are so very important to training. So we're actually going to go into the other room now. We're going to go into a living lab. So why don't you join me over there? Okay, we're going to go into a little bit of an interactive or living lab. We're going to just have some fun. We're going to be very casual about this. And as usual, I've not really informed Coach Matt about what exactly we're going to do today. So it's going to be like coaching a client through all of this without forewarning them, okay? So let me call Coach Matt into the frame. And so as you can see, Coach Matt's a little marked up today. So when we're talking about intersecting lines of force or convergence of force and where the intersecting points occur, it's kind of easy to conceptualize when you're drawing, but sometimes it's really great to give your client an actual example. And you don't need any fancy equipment. You don't need any fancy apps, although there are some really great apps out there that you might want to consider getting. Listen, we have a series of force plates. We don't expect everybody to invest in force plates and go real time to get some feedback. It can leave a data collection problem, but we're going to cover some of that at the Perform Better Summit in Orlando, June 3rd, 2023, how to collect data with very primitive, simple means. Today we're playing around. We just want to get some stuff done. So Matt is actually wearing, some of these visibility markers that we quite frankly purchased on Amazon. I think we got a whole kit for like $7. So we have some horizontal markers. We're also marking his wrists, and you'll see what we're going to use in a second to get us some of the vertical action also. So you can really have fun with clients with this because it is sort of fun to costume up, and also you're able to video it just on your phone and play it back and really have reference points to point to if you don't necessarily have technology that's going to allow you to draw, go anatomics on them. So man, you can get anything done if you just use your creativity in your mind. So first thing we're going to do is simple rotational medicine ball slam to the wall. Bang. Just show them what it looks like. No periphery, just get a ball. Try not to get a light, that one's fine. So he's going to stand here. This is the movement we're talking about. And take a look at him and see if you can see where there's vertical force converging with horizontal force and rotational forces that are coming from the ground. Hit it. Do it again. And really rotate into this one. Good. Now pick that back heel up and perfect. Stop. So you're taking a look there. It's sort of priming the pump, getting an idea. You could stop this. You could play it back. It's an interactive living lab today. So how do I get an idea of gauging vertical force? Okay, so let's explore some primitive, low-cost, cost-efficient means to get some reference points and points of illustration for establishing where you have your vertical lines, your vertical force, your horizontal line or your horizontal force, and then some rotational aspects. So one of the easiest ways to do this is just grab, we're back to pool noodles, okay? So if I want Maddie to basically demonstrate an understanding to transfer his weight, I would tell him load your back foot heavy, and when you go to rotate into the movement, make sure you push and rise up through that vertical force on your front side, because that's really how you translate that force. And in most sport movement, there's a little bit of elevation into the vertical force being the most prominent force in certain movements. So here's your 12-pound medicine ball. So you're going to tell your client, hey, let's have fun with this. Pool noodle, get the ball of your foot on a pool noodle. Front foot is going to be really light now, so that pool noodle drops. Load up here, flex your front knee just a hair, and then perform the movement and hold it as you finish. Okay, now, you see Matt did not really translate or transfer a lot of weight forward. So now this time, he's going to actually sit back and move forward. So he's going to get hard into that front leg. Go ahead. Good. Now you see that line, stay right there. You see the pool noodle jump up. So you have two illustrations here. First time done incorrectly, second time done correctly, boom. There you establish where your vertical force is. You can literally see it. Now, they say, well, hey, how'd that work? How did I transfer the weight there? Well, you could actually take a second pool noodle, and you're just going to put it slightly behind the first pool noodle, like so. And what you're going to do is you're going to have your client load, and you got to kind of stay in the center of the noodles too, right? Ball of the foot in the center of this noodle, ball of the foot in the center of this noodle. So what you're going to essentially see here, Maddie, is I'll load here, and I know it's a little uncomfortable, but you're just trying to illustrate and give them a point of reference. Here to rising up there. Okay, so let's try that, Matt. Okay, you got great balance. So center, center. So you tell your client, load up your back leg heavy, and you see that the direction of this dissipates here. So he's loaded up heavy here. Do the movement and hold it, Matt. Go, bang. Good. So you saw he pushes off here, and then this takes over there. They're kind of in the same line right now, but something very interesting to look at. His push and rise here brought this up. His push to the horizontal plane brought this up. And right here, I'm telling you, there's always an intersection of force or convergence of force, which is kind of cool. Relax a second, but just stay here. Now, if you want to play around with this from a different sphere or along a different plane, you can also turn the client sideways and use a different wall either way you want to face them and kind of get a little bit of a different aspect. But primitive ways, cost-effective ways. Now, if you want to up the ante to get more points of reference, if you want to get fancy, which I don't think is necessary, it's just more of a visual. You start to look at these X points, these intersecting points, by slapping this on, which also came with the kit. I mean, it's a great little kit. You guys will use it a lot, I'm sure. This is just another point of reference, okay? Now, if you really want to up the ante, you say, okay, I understand where that vertical force is. I kind of saw where he transitioned. He started to bring that horizontal force up, and it intersected. And now you have that rotational force, which of course you know is occurring by virtue of transfer of the ground reaction forces back to front, rotation involved. There is that intersecting that we did in the other room, convergence of force, that we illustrated on the board. But if you want to just have another really cool way to kind of get a look at the horizontal line, what you're going to do is you're going to strap this baby on, and this is just a simple Perform Better training belt. It's a single loop belt. And you want to make sure that you can kind of still see your straps here. And you could hook a band to a sled, which in this case we're doing, or you could hook it to a wall. It doesn't have to be this type of cat band. It can pretty much be any band. I really like it if you have an anchor in the front wall, kind of going both ways, so you have feedback in both directions. And Maddie, I'm just going to pick this up a little bit so we can get you a little bit more resistance. Okay? Now, you're basically looking at a few different points of reference here. You got a horizontal line you refer to here that's up medial on the subject. You have what's going to illustrate the horizontal line as far as the ground reaction forces here, and you have the orange pool noodle that's illustrating the vertical forces there. Of course, we know that the rotational force is there, and that's something we're going to cover at the summit about how to sort of measure in some primitive data means to measure the effectiveness of when you bring that rotational force into play. So Matt, if we could just do one more. I really want you to concentrate on heavy load on the back foot. So let me slide this out just a hair. Good. Heavy load on the back foot. Go ahead. Okay. So, and also the pool noodles are a little finicky too. Sometimes when you get them, they're already in this sort of a bend. This one we've been working on to kind of get straight, so it gives us better feedback. So he has that hard loaded back leg. Okay, let's cut this leg down a little bit into here. Okay, so get on that back leg. Good. Now just show the weight shift real quick. There you go. Good, and then back. Weight shift quick. and then back. Okay, so you also see that cat band here. It's now becoming another point of reference on that horizontal line. And you want to keep it a little bit more here. Okay? And let's do the entire movement. So what you're going to want to do is basically reset the climb again. And let's get off, man. Get off of those pool noodles real quick. All right? This one's a little straighter. So let's use this guy. And we're going to go back to the 12-pound ball. And Matt, this time I really want you to concentrate. Ball of your foot on the noodles. I really want you to shrink down. Let me pull this in a little bit, buddy. Okay, right there. Shrink down your stance to about here. Okay? Good. Put all your weight on your back foot. All right, good. So you see the little dip, the little dive in that noodle. And when you come across and you rotate hard, make sure you actually rise up, sort of like when a golfer hits the ball. We teach our guys to rise up and go through with the vertical force. Give it a shot. Go. Good. Perfect. All right. Let me unclip Maddie so you can go shut the camera off. Thank you very much. So listen, kind of an interactive lab. Please stop it, rewind it, play it back. Take a look at where vertical ground reaction forces intersect with horizontal ground reaction forces, meet the rotational forces, and start to play around with this with your clients and athletes. We actually have a day we set aside where we just have people come in and we either make it part of their session or we have a testing day, we make it part of our testing day. But either way, it's a really fun way to kind of delve into ground reaction forces and training. So, once again, Perform Better Summit. I'm speaking June 3rd, 2023 in Orlando, Florida. Please come check me out. You're going to meet Coach Matt also. If you attend both the lecture and the practical or the hands-on, you're going to win an opportunity. You're going to be eligible for an opportunity to win a mentorship and a copy of my first book. But I'm going to tell you, you guys keep digging in. Keep getting knowledge. None of us know everything. So, listen, greatness is forged, not fabricated. I hope to see you in Orlando. That's your day.